No more doubts, I'm feeling alive. With every mile I leave the past behind, same drive. This is my state of mind.
Welcome everyone to Science Drive Podcast, where neuroscience meets our everyday living. My name is Osarime Abe, and this is our first episode for the year 2025. And I want to take this moment to thank everyone who has been, on one way or the other, of support to Science Drive Podcast as a guest, as a listener, as a follower, as someone that comments, as someone that asks questions, as people that are trying to know more about how the brain works, and also pushing to suggest some topics for us to go ahead with. Our vision is simple at Science Drive Podcast, and what we try to do is to bring neuroscience research and new discoveries closer to our people, turn them to some practical tips that we could use for everyday living, and know whether we're on the right path in keeping our brain healthy. And you remember, when our brain is healthy, we're also contributing strongly to our overall health. This year, we have a very brilliant plan to bring some game-changing conversations with top researchers in the neuroscience field, and also people who have worked with some natural products that could offer some practical tips for us. And we can start this today, and we're starting with this today on a very solo ground, looking at the basics of how the brain learns and unlearns. And we tend to kind of create a simple explanation around some of these complex processes, because the brain working process is kind of complex, and you have to know that. And we try to sieve out some of the jargons. We tend to try to decongest information overload, and we also aim at getting some very clear insights so you can have enough take homes. And if we feel we are not doing any better, you can always comment and also help us to get better by dropping some tips that could help us. And if you have information, and also this is to say very big thank you to as many people that have also shared their stories in the comment section, try to let people know what they went through. For example, when we had postpartum depression and how to overcome it, a lot of people dropped their comments. A lot of people talked about how they were able to go through their own period and or past rates. And so we're grateful to you, and we look out for more even in this new year 2025. I wanted to also think about us as your monthly dose of brain-friendly wisdom. We try to get information around how the brain works, and also try to maximize this very precious gift that we've got from God. Whether you're a busy parent, or you're a working professional, or you're just sticking around or trying to understand how the brain works, so you have someone with one way or the other who is mentally diverse, every episode gives you some sort of valuable takeaway. And so look out for this year 2025. I can assure you that we will try as much as we can to push this understanding of how the brain works and knowledge around how to keep our brain healthier and thrive better at its peak. So stay with us, ginger us in any way you can, support us by being a guest, support us with your subscribe to the channel, support us with your likes, support us with your comments, support us with your advice. Every one of it counts, and I'm sure we'll be happy to give you the best as much as we can. And so as we're stepping into this new year, as we start our first episode, we're excited to continue this journey of making neuroscience accessible to all, with practical to everyone, no matter the space you are. Whether you're a long time listener, whether you're just joining me for the first time, or you're just passing by, you're in the right place. We love you, and we want you to get more of this. And so today we're starting with some very basic topic, and it's quite simple. We want to learn about how the brain works in learning. Every day we learn, and a lot of us, whether you're a lifelong learner, or you just like to get some learnings from experience, or in one way or the other, we all learn, and want to know how the brain tends to learn and how it affects other parts of the body, and also how this is also very important when it comes to some defects that we may go through on our path in life. So we're breaking down these concepts in a very practical way, and we're hoping that we bring these extraordinary stories close to you. And I want to thank you all again for making this podcast part of your learning journey. Looking forward to your questions, your stories, and everything you have to offer with us for this year. So grab your favorite drink, and we are going right in for today's topic. So let's start with something that is very factual. Every human being shares over 99.9% of their brain's DNA. I repeat, every human being shares over 99.9% of the brain's DNA. That means we all have something, or 99.9% of a brain DNA in common. it is just the 0.1% that makes us unique, that is responsible for the diversity. But the common 99.9% is what connects us all, and that is why we all can do all this. A lot of people can do the same thing. 99.9% of our brain DNA unite us all. But 0.1% is what is responsible for the uniqueness. And learning is a shared experience, something that brings every student, every woman, every man, and even our elderly together. No matter what our age is, no matter what our background is, everyone can train their brain to learn more effectively. And I want us to know this, that the kind of experience that we put forth to our brain is capable of shaping what the output will eventually be. Just to digress, as you're joining us, please put in the comment section where you're joining us from, where you're listening to us from. We'd like to know, and we'll be happy to also learn one or two things from your experience. So let's go straight to simplify what the neuroscience behind learning is, how the brain really learns, what is responsible for this integration. Every time we learn something new, our brain changes. There is a change in the structure or the morphology of the brain. And yeah, that is what is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is just talking about how the brain is able to rewire itself through learning and experience. Like when you have a trail that becomes clearer with repeated use, just like this, the neural pathways are strengthened when you practice something new and you do it over and over again, and making it easy to learn and remember skills over time. Essentially, what you do repeatedly can change the brain's physical structure. I think that would be correct to say. Now, imagine that our brain is turned to a vast city. The road represents the neural pathway. So when I said the other time that the neural pathway is strengthened, I meant that this network of connections that is called the neural pathways are like the road within the major city. When you learn, you're basically building more roads, connecting new ideas with existing ones, creating shortcuts, and sometimes even highways for faster recall. So when you have shortcuts, you have highways, you have different road networks. So when you need something, there is an easy way to quickly grab or recall. And that is what I can simply liken this to. Now, this whole network is happening courtesy of our neurons. The neurons is also called the brain cells. The more you use them, the more we make use of the brain, the stronger the connections they're able to make. And when it now comes to making use of the brain, sometimes our mind and our experience tend to limit what we expose the brain to. I'm talking from experience. There are some things that I have wanted to learn, but because I'm afraid to learn them, it has limited me. Well, even when I try to expose myself to, when I try to now sit with it, I'm not able to grab them. And I think it's because of the condition, because the mind also works with the brain. The way I have conditioned my mind towards it, the more we use our brain, coming back to the main point here, the stronger the connections. And it's like building muscles for the brain. There was a time we had a blog write-up on Sane Drive that we published and talking about building the muscles for the brain. So let me throw this out to you. Which activity do you think helps the brain create better connections? Do you think sleeping will help the brain? Do you think exercising? And do you think stressing? Please drop it in the comment. The one you think will help the brain to create better connections. Sleep, exercise, or stress? Let's go. Drop your comment in the chat. So how do we improve our learning ability? How do you think we can help our brain to learn better? Let me break it down with some evidence. One is active learning. Scientifically, it has been proven that being proactive, engaging with materials that are capable of summarizing things, can help us to learn in our own words. Studies have also shown that this solidifies connection outside the book. Another thing that I would like to talk about that could improve learning ability is spaced repetition. Instead of cramming all in one and go, when I was an undergraduate, I remember what we call la cram, la pour, put it there and download it. And then after the brain just say bye-bye to it. There is usually no much of reinforcement. But some of the things that you tend to talk about, that you tend to use to joke with your friends, they remain. And even at old age, some of those things, you are still able to say them. You remember those things because we were able to make a strong connection with some of those learnings. It's like watching a plant over days rather than drowning it once. It helps, which will kind of help retention tremendously. 3 is practical testing, and examination contributes to learning. Test contributes to learning. So don't let us be afraid to test ourselves. Even if you're not reading for an exam help learning. It helps reinforcing, and that is why in academia or in education, it forms part of learning. Challenges can help to cement this information that we have been able to grab. And the fourth one I would love to talk about is healthy habits. We have to sleep well because the mind and the brain, they work hand in hand. we have to sleep well, we have to do some sort of exercise, we have to remember to take care of the brain so that we can boost the neuroplasticity, and that is the ability of the brain to make stronger connections, and this will help effective learnings. Okay, so this last section that I would like us to go into, we talk about mindfulness and meditation. Sometimes these practical practices can enhance our focus and cognitive flexibility. It's about training our brain to be present and kind of reduce stress, which often impedes learning most times. When we are taken away by a lot of other things, we tend to be carried away, and then our brain is not in its right space to be able to grab as much as it can. So I think these 5 points are some of the things that we can do to improve learning. And more importantly, I want to just chip this in when it comes to neural plasticity and how well we're able to make best use of learning. Learning also talks about life experience. We have adage in our own, where I come from, in Africa, where it talks about what an elder can see while sitting, the younger one cannot see it while standing. Well, that is true. But when it comes to learning, sometimes what the elder has been exposed to and what he has been able to make do with the experience is what matters. Let me put it that way. If there is an elder who has had a lot of experience and there is no reinforcement or learnings from those experiences, you never can tell. They might be just aside. And when you have someone who is young, have this little experience and is able to reinforce, make some connections, project. And when you project, that means you're being proactive. So things to come, you're even already well prepared for it. So it has to do with how well the prefrontal cortex, executive functioning, and the hippocampal reinforcement is working. And so I don't want to load you with so much of jargons or so much of neuroscience words, but I just want us to know that our brain have different areas for different types of learning. For instance, when we learn new language or skill, we're engaging the hippocampus. Some people can learn language very fast. That is talking about how apt their Raka region is. When I talked about early year experiences and how it can affect the brain development, some of those things are already done. There is no way anyone can undo them based on what we have done. At this age now, if your hippocampus is not well developed, it might be difficult to also engage in some of these things. But from experience, I think that when you expose yourself to some of these things, you might still be able to get on that stage, even though it might be more difficult than someone whose hippocampus is well developed. Vital for forming new memories is this hippocampus. So when it is not well developed, it can also delay or make the person to struggle with learning. The prefrontal cortex helps with decision making and also ability to solve problems. You see some people, they just come in, they have solution to every problem that we have, or they can provide solution to everything every challenges that come to them. While the cerebellum takes on tasks that involves coordination and timing, there are some people whose reflexes are very strong. They're able to manage these things, and this has to do with some hand works. Some people are very good. Their learning is very vast when it comes to that. So the building of the development of this different part of the brain also tells how well the outcome of the learning at these different aspects of learning will be. The beauty of how our brain learns is more rooted in the flexibility and its amazing capability to rewire itself. And like I mentioned earlier, this phenomenon is usually called neuroplasticity. So let's wrap it up this way. Learning is a lifelong journey for everyone, and by understanding how our brain works, it's help us to kind of adopt healthier habits that could help us to learn better and remain an agile thinker. If we want to put it that way, whether you're in your golden years or you're still in the early life trying to navigate through school life or anywhere in between, trying to learn all through your life, our brain is always capable of learning and adapting, and these two they work hand in hand, and that is what reinforces experiences, that is what reinforces learning. So using this active learning and spacing out our study sessions, like I mentioned earlier, some sort of repetitive learning and repetitive adjustments, repetitive spacing of our learning can help us to further reinforce what we've learned and be able to recall them when we need them. So we are also able to prioritize our health, kind of, because the status of our health directly impacts the way we learn. So the overall health is dependent on how our learning capability is dependent on what our current state of our overall health is, and our overall health also depend in somewhat ways on our learning experience. You see some people who are very well in the academic industry at 70, at 80, some of them are still very versatile up there. While you have someone who maybe has been in another field who is not really making much use of the brain, not putting in a lot into it. You see some sort of degeneration in how the brain is able to shoot at those age. So how well we make use of the brain, the learning capabilities also has a way of impacting our overall health. Both are dependent on each other. So before we go, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel, and as if you haven't done that already, share this episode to as many people as you can with who you might find it useful, and also help us to kind of drop reviews or comments that you feel will help us to improve or help other people to learn more or help other people to know more about some of the experience that you've heard. It will mean a lot to us. And while as we're going, I want you to stay curious, stay hungry for knowledge. Remember that every day presents new learning opportunities. And until next time, this is Science Drive Podcast, where we bring neuroscience and its practical applications to our everyday life. Bye for now. Thank you.